One moment she was invisible, just the quiet girl sketching in the corner, the one nobody ever noticed. The next, her elbow cracked into Jake Morrison's ribs with a force that sent shockwaves through the entire school. No one expected Emily Carter to fight back. Especially not like this. But what happens next will change everything, and it's something you could have never imagined. This is the story of the girl no one saw, until she made them look. From which country are you enjoying this story? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe now, because the quiet ones? They're always the ones who surprise you the most. One wrong move. That's all it took to shatter her world. One cruel laugh. One tug at her blouse. And in that moment, something inside her snapped. Emily Carter wasn't just quiet, she was invisible. Not the kind of invisible where people forget your name. The kind where they look through you, like you're made of glass. The kind where your voice gets swallowed by the roar of the hallway, where your footsteps disappear under the weight of everyone else's laughter. She was the girl who sat at the back of the class, her sketchbook her only friend. The girl who flinched when someone walked too close. The girl who had mastered the art of not being seen. But on that day, October 12th, visibility came for her in the worst way possible. The school courtyard was supposed to be safe. It was where kids ate lunch, where couples passed notes, where the occasional teacher smoked a sneaky cigarette behind the oak tree. But for Emily, it was just another place to hide. Until they showed up. Jake Morrison and his pack of hyenas, Tyler, Ryan, and Marcus, the kings of Ridgeview High. The kind of guys who thought fear was funny, who measured their worth in how many people they could make flinch. And today, Emily was their target. She didn't even see them coming. 1 second, she was sketching in her notebook, lost in a world of her own. Then hey ghost girl, you ever wear anything that isn't, like, a trash bag? Jake's voice cut through the air like a knife. Laughter followed. Emily's pencil froze. Then, a hand grabbed the back of her blouse. The fabric tore. Just a little. Just enough. The courtyard went silent. Emily's breath stopped. And then, something inside her woke up. Emily had been taking karate for 3 years. Not because she wanted to fight. Not because she wanted to be tough. But because her dad, before he left, had told her once, the world's gonna try to make you small. Don't let it. And in that split second, with Jake's smirk burning into her, with the sound of her own heartbeat roaring in her ears, she remembered. Her body moved before her mind caught up. A twist. A pivot. A flash of movement so fast nobody saw it coming. Ki. Her elbow snapped back. Crack, right into Jake's ribs. The gasp that followed wasn't just from the pain. It was from the shock. Because Emily Carter, the girl who never spoke, the girl who vanished into the background, had just dropped the most popular guy in school with one move. And the entire courtyard saw it. Jake crumpled, wheezing. His friends froze. For the first time in her life, Emily wasn't invisible. Every eye was on her. Every breath held. And then, holy *T. The courtyard exploded. Some kids cheered. Some backed away. Teachers came running. But Emily? She stood there, her hands shaking, her torn blouse fluttering in the wind. And for the first time, she didn't look down. This wasn't just a story about a girl who fought back. It was a story about what happens when the quiet ones stop being quiet, when the people who've been pushed down finally push back. And as Jake Morrison clutched his ribs, as the whispers spread like wildfire through the school, Emily Carter walked away. Not running, not hiding, just walking. Because today she wasn't invisible. Today they all saw her. The rumors spread faster than fire. By lunchtime, everyone knew. Jake Morrison got taken down by the girl nobody noticed. But the real battle? It was just beginning. Emily had spent years folding herself into the background, shrinking under the weight of other people's laughter. But now, she had done the one thing she had spent her whole life avoiding. She had been seen. And once you're seen, you can't go back. The whispers followed her through the halls. Some were admiring. Some were vicious. But all of them carried the same unspoken question. Who the hell is Emily Carter really? She had no answer for them. Not yet. Because the truth was she didn't even know herself. Not until that moment in the courtyard. Not until her body moved without her permission, driven by something deeper than fear. Something like rage. Something like survival. And now she had to figure out what came next. Because Jake Morrison wasn't the type to let this go. And Emily? She wasn't the type to back down anymore. The school had drawn its lines. The quiet girl had made her stand. And nothing would ever be the same again. The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch, but no one moved. All eyes remained fixed on Emily as she bent down to pick up her fallen sketchbook, her hands steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. The pages were slightly crumpled, her latest drawing, a detailed dragon mid-flight, now creased across its wings. She smoothed it carefully before tucking it under her arm. Jake was still on the ground, his face twisted in pain and humiliation. His friends hovered uncertainly around him, torn between helping him up and distancing themselves from the spectacle. Tyler, the tallest of the group, finally reached down, but Jake slapped his hand away. "I don't need your damn help," he spat, struggling to his feet. His breath came in short, pained gasps as he clutched his side. When he finally stood, his eyes locked onto Emily with a mixture of shock and simmering rage. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, the predator and the prey, their roles suddenly, irrevocably reversed. The air between them crackled with unspoken threats. Then Mrs. Henderson, the ancient algebra teacher who always smelled faintly of peppermints, pushed through the crowd. "What on earth is going on here?" she demanded, her sharp eyes darting between Jake's hunched form and Emily's torn blouse. The courtyard erupted with conflicting explanations. Jake started it. Emily just attacked him for no reason. She was defending herself. Mrs. Henderson held up a hand, silencing the chaos. "Both of you." Principal's office. Now, as Emily followed the teacher through the parting crowd, she became acutely aware of the whispers trailing her like shadows. "Did you see that? I didn't know she could do that. Jake totally deserved it." But it was the quiet, odd voice from somewhere to her left that stuck with her. That was so badass. The walk to the principal's office felt endless. Every classroom door they passed seemed to have students peering out, the news spreading faster than Emily could walk. She kept her chin up, her back straight, but inside, her thoughts churned like a stormy sea. What had she just done? 3 years of training, 3 years of discipline, and she'd thrown it all away in one moment of anger. Her sensei's voice echoed in her memory. "Karate is for defense, never for ego." Had she crossed that line? The answer came quicker than she expected. No. That hadn't been about pride or revenge. That had been pure instinct, the survival reflex of someone who'd been pushed too far for too long. Principal Thompson's office smelled like lemon cleaner and old books. The balding man looked up from his paperwork as they entered, his bushy eyebrows climbing his forehead when he saw Jake's pained expression. "Another fight, Mr. Morrison?" he sighed as if this was a routine inconvenience. Then his gaze landed on Emily, and his expression shifted to surprise. "Miss Carter?" The disbelief in his voice stung more than Emily expected. Of course he was shocked. The quiet honor student, the girl who never caused trouble, standing in his office for fighting? Unthinkable. Mrs. Henderson launched into an explanation, but Emily barely listened. Her attention was drawn to the framed photos on the principal's wall, graduating classes from years past. Rows and rows of smiling faces, each with their own stories, their own struggles. How many of them had moments like this? Moments where they had to decide who they really were? "Emily." Principal Thompson's voice pulled her back. "Would you like to tell me your side of what happened?" She took a deep breath. This was it, the moment to find her voice. It started when Jake and his friends. The fluorescent lights in Principal Thompson's office hummed softly as Emily gathered her thoughts. Jake sat slumped in the adjacent chair, his usual swagger replaced by sullen silence. The ticking of the wall clock marked the passing seconds like a countdown to something irreversible. "It started when Jake and his friends surrounded me at lunch," Emily began, her voice steadier than she felt. "They called me names. Then Jake grabbed my blouse from behind and pulled hard enough to tear it." She gestured to the frayed fabric at her shoulder where a seam had split. Principal Thompson's eyes narrowed as he examined the damage. Is this true, Jake? Jake shifted uncomfortably, his fingers digging into his knees. It was just a joke. She took it way too seriously. A joke? Emily's hands curled into fists in her lap. You've been making me the butt of your jokes since freshman year. Tripping me in the halls, stealing my homework, pouring chocolate milk on my sketchbook last month. How is any of that funny? The principal's expression darkened. Mr. Morrison, we've had this conversation before. Your file is all ready. A sharp knock at the door interrupted him. The school secretary peered in nervously. Mr. Thompson, Jake's father, is on the phone. He's quite upset. Emily's stomach dropped. Everyone knew Richard Morrison owned half the businesses in town and donated generously to the school's athletic program. His influence hung in the air like a threat. Principal Thompson sighed. Excuse me for a moment. When the door clicked shut, Jake turned to Emily with a venomous whisper. You're dead, ghost girl. My dad's gonna have you expelled and then you're mine. The words should have terrified her. Instead, something unexpected bubbled up in Emily's chest. A quiet, unshakable certainty. No, she said simply. I'm not. Jake blinked, thrown by her calm defiance. Before he could respond, the door reopened to reveal not just Principal Thompson, but Emily's mother still in her nurse's scrubs, her face tight with concern. Mom. Emily's composure wavered. Mrs. Carter crossed the room in 3 quick strides, her medical eye immediately assessing the torn clothing and the faint red marks on Emily's shoulder. Are you hurt? Before Emily could answer, Principal Thompson cleared his throat. Given the circumstances and Jake's disciplinary history, he'll be serving a 3-day suspension. Emily. He hesitated. We'll consider this matter closed, provided there are no further incidents. Jake shot to his feet. That's bullshit. She broke my... That's enough. The principal's voice cracked like a whip. Your father agrees this is a reasonable consequence. Now go wait in the hall while I speak with Emily and her mother. When Jake stormed out, slamming the door behind him, Principal Thompson sagged into his chair. Emily, I want you to know I take bullying very seriously. But I also need you to understand that physical violence is what stopped him. Emily's mother interrupted, her arms sliding protectively around Emily's shoulders. My daughter has endured harassment from that boy for years. Where were your consequences then? The office air grew thick with tension. Emily watched the principal's face cycle through frustration, guilt, and finally resignation. Fair point, he conceded. Here's what's going to happen. The walk home from school that day was nothing like the hundreds that had come before. Emily kept her shoulders squared, her stride even, but her mind reeled from the whirlwind of the afternoon. Beside her, her mother's silence was heavy with unspoken questions. The late October air carried the scent of fallen leaves and wood smoke. A gust of wind sent a flurry of crimson and gold swirling around their feet as they turned onto their street. Emily's house, a modest 2-story with peeling blue shutters, had never looked so much like a sanctuary. Her mother finally spoke as they reached the front steps. You've been taking karate all this time? Emily's fingers tightened around her backpack straps. Since 8th grade. Why didn't you tell me? The hurt in her mother's voice made Emily's throat tighten. She stared at the welcome mat, its cheerful, home sweet home, greeting worn nearly illegible. You were working doubles after Dad left. I didn't want to bother you. Her mother's breath hitched. She cupped Emily's face, calloused thumbs brushing her cheeks. Oh honey, you're never a bother. The dam broke. Tears Emily hadn't realized she was holding back spilled over. Her mother pulled her close, and for the first time in years, Emily let herself be small, sobbing into the familiar lavender scent of her mother's scrubs. Inside, over mugs of too sweet hot chocolate, the full story came tumbling out. The years of whispered taunts, the ruined assignments, the way she'd started mapping escape routes through the school halls. Her mother listened, her face growing steadily darker. I'm calling the school board tomorrow, she said finally, setting her mug down with a sharp click. Emily shook her head. It won't change anything. Jake's dad doesn't own this town, no matter what he thinks. Her mother's jaw set in that stubborn way Emily knew meant battle lines had been drawn. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, I want to see this dojo of yours. Hattori Dojo smelled of polished wood and sweat, a scent Emily had come to associate with safety. Sensei Takamura, a compact man in his 60s with hands like weathered stone, was leading the kids' class when they arrived. His sharp eyes found Emily immediately. The storm has broken, I see. Emily bowed automatically. Sensei, this is my mother. The old man returned the bow, then extended a hand. Mrs. Carter, your daughter has remarkable focus. Her mother's eyebrows rose. Apparently she's full of surprises. Sensei chuckled. I'll show you where your tax dollars have been going. As they toured the modest facility, the worn mats, the dented punching bags, the shrine to the dojo's founder, Emily saw her mother's expression shift from skepticism to quiet awe. In the back room, a bulletin board displayed competition photos. There, amidst the action shots, was Emily in her white GI, mid-kick at a tournament last spring, a bronze medal around her neck. Her mother traced the photo's edge. You competed? Sensei answered for her. Placed third in her division. Would have been higher if she weren't holding back. He fixed Emily with a knowing look. Perhaps now she'll stop restraining herself. The implication hung in the air. This wasn't just about tournaments anymore. Meanwhile, at the Morrison estate, Jake sat at the granite island in his family's gourmet kitchen, nursing a bag of frozen peas against his ribs while his father paced like a caged tiger. This is unacceptable, Richard Morrison snarled, his Rolex glinting as he gestured sharply. That little bitch assaults you, and Thompson gives you suspension? Jake kept his eyes down. His ribs throbbed with every breath, not just from Emily's strike, but from the humiliation burning in his chest. The whole school had seen him go down. His reign as Ridgeview's top predator was in jeopardy. His father snatched the phone from its charger. I'm calling the superintendent. We'll have that little... Dad. Jake surprised himself by speaking up. Let me handle it. Richard paused, studying his son with new interest. Oh. Jake set the peas aside, wincing as he straightened. If you get her expelled, everyone will think I needed Daddy to fight my battles. He bared his teeth in something that wasn't quite a smile. I want to break her myself. For a long moment, the only sound was the ice maker humming in the stainless steel fridge. Then Richard Morrison laughed. A cold, approving sound. That's my boy. The fluorescent lights of Ridgeview High's hallway hummed like angry bees as Emily stepped through the front doors Monday morning. A hush fell over the crowded corridor as students turned to stare. Whispers slithered through the air like snakes. That's her. Took Jake down with one hit. Heard Morrison's dad tried to get her expelled. Emily kept her eyes forward, her backpack straps gripped tight in both hands. The torn blouse had been replaced with a simple black hoodie, no loose fabric to grab. Her mother had helped pick it out yesterday, their shopping trip punctuated by long silences and sideways glances at every loud noise in the mall. A sudden movement to her left made Emily flinch. But it was just Sarah Kim from her chemistry class, sliding a folded note into her hand before disappearing into the throng. Emily waited until she reached her locker to open it. The handwriting was neat and precise. Asterisk, meet me in the east stairwell after third period. I have something that might help. Mia Watanabe, asterisk. Mia? The quiet Japanese exchange student who always sat in the back of English class? Emily hadn't even realized they knew each other's names. Third period dragged like an eternity. Mr. Henderson's lecture on the causes of World War I blurred into white noise as Emily's knee bounced under her desk. Every tick of the clock above the whiteboard ratcheted her tension higher. When the bell finally rang, she took the long route to the east stairwell, checking over her shoulder for Jake's friends. Mia was already there, leaning against the cinder block wall with a manila envelope clutched to her chest. She stood barely 5 feet tall, her sleek black hair cut in a sharp bob that emphasized the determined set of her jaw. You fight good, Mia said without preamble. Her accent made the words sound like a challenge. Emily blinked. Thanks. Mia thrust the envelope forward. These might help you. Inside were printouts of school security camera footage, time-stamped clips showing Jake and his crew shoving freshmen into lockers, stealing lunches, and in one particularly damning sequence, planting what looked like drugs in another student's backpack. Emily's breath caught. "How did you get these?" A ghost of a smile touched Mia's lips. "My uncle is school IT technician. He doesn't know I copied these." She leaned closer, her dark eyes intense. "Jake made my cousin transfer schools last year. We Watanabes don't forget." The implication hung between them. Asterisk, we Watanabes don't forgive either. Asterisk. Across campus, Jake Morrison was holding court near the vending machines, his entourage hanging on every word despite the way he winced when he laughed too hard. 3 days off wasn't so bad, he bragged to a cluster of junior girls. "Dad took me to the club, let me drive his BMW." He smirked. "That freak Carter's gonna wish she never." A loud thunk interrupted him. The entire group turned to see Liam O'Connor, a hulking senior lineman on the football team, deliberately drop his history textbook on the floor near Jake's feet. "You got something to say about Emily Morrison?" Liam's voice carried down the hallway. At 6'3" and 240 pounds of solid muscle, he didn't need to raise it. Jake's smirk faltered. Since when did jocks care about some nobody art kid? Liam bent to retrieve his book, bringing his face level with Jake's. "My little sister has Down syndrome. Saw your boys laughing at her last week." His fingers flexed around the textbook spine. "Heard what Emily did to you? That was brave." The unspoken contrast, asterisk, unlike you asterisk, hung in the air. Jake's face flushed crimson. Before he could respond, the warning bell rang. As the crowd dispersed, Tyler nudged Jake. "Dude, since when is O'Connor defending Ghost Girl?" Jake's fists clenched. That was the problem, he didn't know. And what he didn't know could hurt him. By lunchtime, the school's social tectonic plates had shifted. Emily sat at her usual isolated table, picking at a tuna sandwich, when a tray slid across from her. Mia sat down without asking, followed hesitantly by Sarah Kim and, to Emily's shock, Liam O'Connor, who had to angle his massive frame carefully to fit at the small table. "Mind if we join you?" Liam asked, though he was already sitting. Emily's mouth went dry. Was this a joke? Some elaborate setup for another humiliation? Mia seemed to read her thoughts. "Not trick. They hate Jake too." Sarah nodded vigorously, her braces glinting. "He called my little brother a racial slur last year. Administration did nothing." Liam cracked his knuckles. "My sister came home crying last Tuesday. Your little Courtyard show." He gave Emily an approving nod. That took guts. Emily looked around at her unlikely allies, the exchange student, the quiet brainiac, the football star, and felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it, hope. Mia tapped the manila envelope now sitting between them. "We have more than just videos. Witness statements. Dates. Times." Her eyes gleamed. Enough to sink Morrison for good. Liam lowered his voice. "But you need to understand, going after Jake means going after his old man. That won't be clean." Emily studied their determined faces, realizing with a start that she wasn't invisible anymore, not to them. Maybe not to anyone. She squared her shoulders. "I'm tired of being clean." The library basement smelled of old paper and dust, the flickering fluorescent lights casting long shadows across the study carrels. Emily and her unlikely allies had claimed the farthest corner, their notebooks spread out between stacks of reference books as camouflage. Mia tapped a manicured nail against the timeline they'd constructed. Morrison's pattern is consistent, escalating harassment followed by plausible deniability. She flipped open a folder. These are statements from 12 students spanning 3 years. Liam whistled low under his breath as he scanned the pages. "Dem, you've been building this case a while, Watanabe." Mia's expression darkened. "My family believes in preparation." Emily traced the dates with her finger, her stomach twisting. "He always targets people who won't fight back. People the teachers won't believe." Sarah adjusted her glasses, her voice barely above a whisper. "But me, when I reported him for stealing my calculus notebook last year, Principal Thompson asked if I was sure I hadn't just lost it. A heavy silence settled over the group. Outside, thunder rumbled, the first warning of the approaching storm system that had been forecast all week. The timing felt ominous. Liam cracked his knuckles. "So what's the play?" "We take this to the school board." Mia shook her head. "Not yet. We need incontrovertible proof. Something even Richard Morrison can't sweep under." The basement door creaked open. All 14 stiffened as footsteps echoed across the linoleum. Emily's hand instinctively went to the pencil lying across her notebook. Not a weapon, but better than nothing. "Relax, it's just me." Daniel Ruiz emerged from the shadows, his varsity Letterman jacket swapped for a nondescript hoodie. The star soccer player glanced over his shoulder before sliding into their circle. "You guys are terrible at hiding," he said, dropping his voice. "Half the school's talking about your little rebellion." Liam's shoulders tensed. "You here to spy for Morrison?" Daniel snorted. "Please. That racist prick called me Border Patrol's problem last semester." He pulled out his phone. "I'm here because you need this." The video played silently on his screen. Jake and 2 basketball players stuffing what looked like weed into a freshman's locker while laughing. The time stamp showed yesterday, during Jake's suspension. Emily's breath caught. "That's current," Daniel finished. "And if you look close, that's not real weed. It's oregano from the cafeteria. But guess who gets expelled when the random locker search happens tomorrow?" Sarah gasped. "They're framing someone?" "Mark Velasquez. Kids on scholarship." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Jake's been bragging about it all morning." Mia snatched the phone, her fingers flying across the screen. "Forwarding this to my cloud. Morrison won't know what hit him." The lights flickered again as thunder cracked closer this time. Emily stared at the storm brewing outside the high windows, feeling the same electric tension in her bones. "We can't wait," she said suddenly. "If they're setting up an innocent kid tomorrow." Liam stood, his chair scraping loudly. "Then we move tonight." Across town, Jake Morrison wasn't enjoying his suspension as much as he'd pretended. His father's mansion felt cavernous with both parents at some charity gala. The housekeeper had left hours ago. Even his usual hangers-on had made excuses not to come over, probably scared of getting caught in whatever retaliation he was planning. Jake paced his bedroom, his ribs still tender when he moved wrong. The doctor had said no serious damage, but the bruise spreading across his side was an ugly reminder of his humiliation. His phone buzzed, a text from Tyler. "Dude, heard O'Connor and the Asian chick were hanging with Ghost Girl today." Jake's vision went red at the edges. He threw his phone against the wall hard enough to crack the screen. Since when did Emily Carter have allies? Since when did anyone dare cross him? The grandfather clock downstairs chimed midnight. Jake stared at his reflection in the rain-streaked window. His usually perfect hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. For the first time in his privileged life, Jake Morrison felt doubt. And that scared him more than any karate chop ever could. The Ridgeview High parking lot was eerily quiet at 1:17 a.m. Emily crouched behind a dumpster with Mia, their black clothing blending into the shadows. Somewhere in the darkness, Liam and Daniel were disabling the security cameras Sarah had mapped out from her yearbook committee access. "This is insane," Emily whispered, her heart hammering. "We're breaking into our own school." Mia adjusted the small backpack containing her laptop. "Technically, Daniel has keys from soccer practice. We're just entering after hours." A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, 2 quick flashes. Their signal. Emily took a deep breath and followed Mia toward the side entrance, where Daniel stood holding the door. The hallway beyond was pitch black, the emergency exit signs providing the only illumination. Liam met them inside, his massive frame tense. "Cameras are looped. We've got 20 minutes max before the overnight patrol comes through." Mia was already moving toward the administration office. "Then let's not waste time." Emily followed, her sneakers silent on the tile. Every shadow seemed to breathe, every creak of the building sounded like approaching footsteps. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the surreal realization that she, Emily Carter, was part of a midnight heist to take down the school's golden boy. Mia picked the lock on the vice principal's door with disturbing ease. Summer vacations in Tokyo were educational, she murmured at Emily's look. Inside, Liam went straight to the filing cabinet. Student records are here. Find Morrison's. Daniel kept watch at the door while Emily helped search. The manila folders were meticulously organized until they reached M. Empty. Liam held up the Morrison tab. Someone beat us to it. Mia cursed in Japanese. His father must have. A sound from the hallway froze them all. Distant footsteps. Daniel's face went pale. That's not the patrol. They don't come for another. The door burst open. Standing in the threshold, drenched from the rain and breathing hard, was Jake Morrison himself, his eyes wild. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Jake lunged. Jake's tackle sent them both crashing into the filing cabinet, metal drawers screeching open as folders rained down around them. Emily's ribs screamed when they hit the floor, but instinct took over. She twisted mid-fall, using Jake's momentum to roll them over until she straddled his chest. His breath reeked of alcohol and rage. "You're dead, ghost girl," he spat, bucking beneath her. "You and your little..." A blur of motion. Mia's foot connected with Jake's temple in a vicious snap kick. His head bounced off the linoleum with a sickening thud, eyes rolling back. Silence. Emily scrambled off him, heart hammering. "Did you just knock him out?" "Yes." Mia checked Jake's pulse with clinical detachment. "He'll wake up with a headache and bruised ego." Liam hauled Jake into the vice principal's chair, using a spare hoodie to tie his hands behind his back. This just got complicated. Daniel was already at the computer, typing frantically. More like convenient. "Look what I found." The monitor displayed a hidden folder labeled RM cases, dozens of scanned documents detailing complaints against Jake, all marked resolved, no action. But the real shock came from the subfolder titled Athletic Fund Disbursements, showing wire transfers from Richard Morrison's company to the school board members' personal accounts. Sarah covered her mouth. They'd been paying people off. A low groan came from Jake as he stirred. Emily's fingers itched for the strike that would silence him again, but something stopped her. The way his eyelids fluttered weakly, the slackness in his usually smirking mouth. For the first time, Jake Morrison looked human. Mia shoved a flash drive into the computer, downloading everything. Liam watched the door. Thunder shook the building as the storm reached its peak. The lights flickered, once, twice, before plunging them into darkness. Emily's pulse spiked. "Power's out." Jake chose that moment to regain full consciousness. He thrashed against his bonds, his voice slurred but venomous. "My father will destroy you. You think some files matter? We own this town." Daniel yanked the flash drive free just as emergency lights flickered on. "Got it? Let's move." They bolted into the hallway, only to freeze at the sight of flashing red lights through the front doors. "Police!" Sarah whimpered. Liam shook his head. "Security company. They must have a backup generator." Mia grabbed Emily's arm. "Fire exit. Now." They ran, sneakers squeaking on polished floors, Jake's shouts echoing behind them. The fire door alarm shrieked when they burst through, but no one stopped them as they scattered into the storm. Rain lashed Emily's face as she sprinted across the football field, the flash drive burning a hole in her pocket. Behind her, sirens wailed. News spread faster than the morning bell. By first period, everyone knew Jake Morrison had been found tied up in the administration office, ranting about a conspiracy. The police were investigating a break-in. And somehow, anonymously, the entire student body received emails containing scanned documents that made even the most apathetic teachers pale. Principal Thompson canceled classes by 10 a.m. Emily sat with her allies in the now-empty cafeteria, watching through the windows as Richard Morrison stormed into the building, his tailored suit rumpled from what had clearly been a frantic morning. Liam sipped his chocolate milk. "Think it'll work?" Mia smirked. The county superintendent already announced an investigation. "My uncle says the school board emergency meeting tonight will be lively." Sarah fidgeted with her bracelet. "What about Jake?" They all looked to Emily. She thought of Jake's limp form in the chair, the fear in his eyes when he realized, for once, he wasn't in control. He'll survive. Epilogue. 2 weeks later. The resignations made front-page news. Principal Thompson retired early. 3 school board members stepped down. Richard Morrison faced a federal bribery investigation. And Jake? Transferred to a military school upstate, according to the rumor mill. Emily stood at her locker, now surrounded by students who nodded respectfully as they passed. The girl who had been invisible now carried herself differently, back straight, gaze steady. Mia leaned against the adjacent locker. "You're welcome." Emily laughed. "We did it together." Liam joined them, slinging an arm over both their shoulders. "Damn right. So, same time next week." Sarah blinked up from her notebook. "For what?" The 3 exchanged glances before grinning. "Whatever comes next," Emily said. And for the first time in her high school career, she actually looked forward to finding out.